Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to share with you some ideas for some weekday stays. But before we hear from our panelists, introduce everybody, I want to just let you know that the information provided here is for educational purposes, and FRLA does not warrant or endorse any particular provider. FRLA is prohibited from providing specific legal, financial, or accounting advice, and the information represented here is not intended as such. FRLA encourages business consult qualified, competent advisors in these fields to explore their specific situation. The webinar is recorded and for future use by the association and other industry members. Your participation in the call is deemed to be your consent to the recording. So with that, I'm going to give it to you, Tom, partner and president of PPK.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. I appreciate you jumping on. And a shout out to Ashley and Dan from FRLA. Thank you very much for bringing us back again and hosting us in this webinar today. My name, as Ashley said, Tom Kenney. I'm the president and owner of PPK Advertising based in Tampa Bay, Florida. So for our discussion today, a couple of weeks ago, my wife was speaking with a good friend of ours, and you may know him, Kerry Morrissey from Ocean Properties. They were talking about the challenges that hotels and resorts are facing these days, given the fact that so many of the conventions had been canceled and business travel is all but halted. Even families are really uncertain where they're going with their vacations and if they're going to take them or not. So we thought that that would be a good idea for a webinar today to talk about that. Kerry did say that the weekends are picking up, but the weekdays could really use a boost. And given our current situation and climate, a lot of parents are still working from home and remoting in, and their kids are with them, and the kids are virtual schooling from home. And so, if you look at that, you could look at this with some creative thinking, some creative marketing. You could look at this as an opportunity to capitalize on, and that's what we were thinking we wanted to talk about. I thought it would be a really good idea for a discussion. And with that, I brought two gentlemen on today that are very well versed in this arena and are very good and knowledgeable about generating visitation. And they're joining the discussion today with us. I'd like to introduce you to our guests. So with me today, first is John Tolbert. And John is the Senior Vice President of Asset Management of BRE Hotels and Resorts, but he's also the founder of Revelation Consultancy. And my good friend Bill Potts and client, Chief Marketing Revenue Officer of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. So welcome, guys, and thank you for agreeing to be here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Awesome. So I thought what we could do to start off everything is just share a little bit about your backgrounds and let everyone know what you guys do. And we can start with you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for having me. Thank you, FRLA, for having me on here. John, nice to meet you virtually. Anyway, yes, I am the Chief Marketing and Revenue Officer at Clearwater Marine Aquarium, best known from Winter and from the Dolphin Tale movies. So we have become a major tourist attraction in Panelist County. The last survey we did, we were driving 400,000 room nights per year to this market because folks that wanted to come see Winter. So I'm lucky enough to have been here for 4.5 years, and it's remarkable what we do, not just in the rescue, rehab, release side, but what we do on the Inspire side with kids. But most importantly for this group, we're bringing a lot of people in to put heads in beds and driving them into restaurants as well. I am leaving shortly to start a consultancy like John is on the marketing side, but it's been an amazing run here, and I'm looking forward to sharing some things that I've learned with you all today.
Thanks, Bill. And John.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I happen to be today in Wailea, Hawaii. I spent a tremendous amount of time in Florida, as you know, from 1995 throughout on both coasts. Most recently, the president of the Boca Raton Resort and Club. I have the pleasure of serving on the Tourism Development Council for Palm Beach County, the board of Visit Florida, along with a lot of cultural and chamber organizations. So I think the landscape and perspective, we have the benefit of having Bill from an attraction standpoint, and obviously from an advertising standpoint, Tom, your expertise, and then what's happening around the country, where we can say, Hawaii looks very different than Florida does. Florida within Florida looks very different than each county, each city, each location. And I think we've had the benefit of being a private club, having a real estate component, and having assets in very diverse urban and resort marketplaces that we'll be able to take some benefit, some lessons learned, and best practices in this ever-changing climate. The governor in Hawaii announced closing down inter-island traffic. We know what Florida's happening with Miami and Palm Beach County. So look forward to getting into it and talk about what we can do and how we look at coming out of this the most effective way.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. So I thought we could dive right in and address some of the things I brought up in the open remarks. But, you know, with the conferences and the conventions shutting down and not happening anymore, and they're not booked, they're canceled, large portion of the workforce is working from home. Their children are home. Everyone's distant learning. What have you guys done in your establishments? How have you guys pivoted to attract reservations for this fall even? And I'll kick that over to John.
Yeah, great question. And I think it really ties into a lot of things we learned from the art and culture side is when they started doing the virtual museums and the virtual tours and engaging the students in the e-learning component. And obviously, you know, out of this pandemic, the situation, the fact that we're on a meeting today, whether it be Zoom or GoTo or whatever the format is, does not replace that individual interaction. And I think that the challenge that we're facing is the lack of information and clarity for parents and understanding what this looks like. I mean, just today, Pinecrest, a very active private school in Fort Lauderdale, announced a couple-week delay, and by classes, and universities are doing it around the country. So the ability to take a property like ours, a Boca Raton Resort and Club, or the South Seas Resort, or the Grand Wailea, or Ritz Kapalua, and say, how do we look at it differently? Because what we found is the drive market, to what your team earlier alluded to, is the drive market and getting out of cities. We know people want mountains, they want beaches, and they want lakes, sanctuaries and safe havens, right? They've been stuck in urban markets like Brickell and Miami, and beautiful in their own right, but people want to get out. We have a sense and yearning for travel. So I think the ability to say, what's with this e-learning, which we think is going to continue through the fall, schools are trying to navigate it. Everyone's working with the best information they have, but it's changing in real time. So we're looking at doing things like extended stay, you know, cottages, villas, suites. Social distancing within those, operating hotels at 50% capacity with the ability to take a guest room. If you're staying for 7, 14, 30, 60, 90 days, it's not uncommon what we're seeing a lot of people staying in these locations for an extended period of time. Having the ability to have a technology platform for e-learning, bringing camp counselors, bringing on teachers for SAT, ACT studies, all of those kind of things. And more importantly, a parent that may still be working and having to homeschool, giving an office space for 3 or 4 hours. So you come to a Grand Wailea resort, you rent a suite here for 30 days. We're going to give you an extra room that you can use for e-learning and office for the spouse. And then equally important, take advantage of the great things that Florida has to offer in terms of culture and experience and outdoor activities that are going to be part of the curriculum. So we think our resorts in Florida and around the world are really poised to take advantage of this if we can get the momentum and get some consistency and be in alignment with what the state and health officials want.
That's really interesting, John. I didn't realize you guys were creating those office spaces and whatnot. Are you communicating that on your websites and in collateral?
It's real time. So we're working right now with a company, Align Solutions, out of Fort Lauderdale, who's doing some very innovative things. We're going to be converting guest rooms into kind of very comfortable collaborative space, but wire space. So we may have, you know, upping the internet speed. We got to make sure that these individuals and these younger guests of ours have the ability to connect back to their teachers and back to their schools. And we're actually working with some schools directly to be able to set up where we know we have a higher demand and concentration out of certain markets. And I think you take the Boca Raton Resort and Club, for example, you have a vibrant club membership. You have some great, amazing private schools around there. So they could either, whether it be home or whether they come to your club or whether they come to your resort or an aquarium like Bill has, yes. So the point of this, but it's happening in real time and moving really rapidly, and we're developing and adapting and being agile every single day.
Interesting. I want to come back to a couple of things you mentioned there, John, but we'll do that a little bit later. Bill, how about you guys? How have you guys pivoted with the aquarium?
Boy, I tell you what, there's been a few phases of it, and John, you're right. It is about agility, and you know, the first thing, we closed, right? We're a nonprofit. We're dependent on gate revenue to pay the bills, and so we had to pivot. And we did virtual fundraising, digital fundraising. We leaned in doing personalized greetings to people that couldn't come to CMA with our animal care people, with our animals, and with the actors from the movies that we would dial in via Zoom. And we literally raised hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. Then we opened in phase 2, which John has had to go through too. You got to convince everybody that you're safe and that you've got all the things set up. Everybody was worried about that. We got that handled. And the third phase is how do you bring people in the door that may be resistant to come visit, to your points. They're in school, they're stressed. I call it wired and tired. And the answer is we had to be creative. So we came up with a Florida resident special because now we're leaning in on the drive-in market. Sundown special for those that are coming off the beach. We're lucky that right behind me is the #1 beach in the US, which really helps. We had to show the visuals of our aquarium, the outdoor pieces, because people are more comfortable outdoors than they are indoors. All those were super important, but the biggest pivot for us was as how we market to people. And the answer was we used to market to them 62 days before they came. We knew when they were planning their visit to come to Clearwater. We knew when they were interested in Clearwater Marine Aquarium. What we're seeing now is people are planning 2 weeks, 2 days, sometimes 2 hours before they show up in this market. So we've thrown away the budget for the pre-planning. We try to focus on the budget when they get here. So once we're here using geofencing, geo-targeting, longitude, latitude, all those kind of things, we're pretty sophisticated at reaching them on the digital side. We've had to give up a lot of traditional stuff because obviously we're challenged on the marketing spend because of the reduction in attendance.
Sure. And for those of you probably on the call or on the webinar that don't know, Bill and the CMA just recently launched a hotel. Want to talk about that for a minute, Bill?
Yeah, I tell you what, you talk about courage is to launch a new hotel during the middle of a pandemic. And we did it with some swagger because Winter the Dolphins Beach Club sits on the #1 beach. There's so many great reasons why that made sense to launch it while things were a little bit challenging. #1 is our slogan is see Winter, come visit her here and stay with Winter. So you can actually stay in a winter room. We tested this out at the Wyndham and it worked out really well. So now we have a whole hotel that's branded for CMA. But the home run for that idea, forget the pandemic. Yes, it's going to drive room nights and revenue for us because people want to stay with Winter. Okay, that's going great. People that come to this market that have families with kids, they're going to want to stay in that hotel. Okay, we can market to them. We're good with that. Webcams, digital, all those things. But the long-term solution for that, the reason we did it is because of the eco-friendly piece of it. You go to Costa Rica, you know you to go to eco-friendly market. So what we're doing, we have a program called Clearwater Marine Aquarium Certified, which is like best practices around the world that we put together on the environmental side, eco side, and they're doing all those things. And the idea is that we're going to prove the concept that green equals green, that eco equals good business. And what we're trying to do is prove that concept right behind us so that other hotels along the beach and within the state of Florida can follow that model, because that's a point of difference that Florida can own and this beach can own, and we're pushing it that way.
Green equals green. I like it. And Ron, you're an ad guy. So actually, now that we're on attractions, I wanted to touch on that, and I'll bring this to John. Are you guys in any of your over 200 locations that you guys have, John? Are you guys leveraging local attractions like Bill's facility to try to draw in those families? And specifically, I mentioned earlier, are you guys seeing a lag in weekday as well? And can you leverage those attractions to get weekday visits?
I absolutely think, especially now that the schools are getting a little bit more identified on what their schedules are going to be, and we're going to see weekends now, midweek. We're going to lose track of whether it's a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And I think the idea that the online curriculum for these students, particularly the private schools and the charter schools that a lot of us deal with, they are so in tune to the importance of a balanced education, and being able to tap into what Bill's doing, or the Boca Museum of Art's another great example, their virtual tours, the Cultural Council of Palm Beach. Each one of our areas has best practices, and to us, we believe in that. And also small businesses and, quite frankly, restaurants. And I think that we don't believe we have a monopoly on great ideas, so this is happening in real time. We want you to fall in love with raw juice in Boca Raton and stop by there. So, for example, as part of the exercise curriculum, and one of the students has to do PE, we're doing maps where here's a great coffee shop, here's a great juice bar. Stop by Oceans 2, 3, 4 in Delray and enjoy outdoor dining. We're going to win this through competitive collaboration. We have to come together as an industry to instill, #1, safety for our team members, and then safety for the customer to get real traction out of this and get momentum. And it's about building the greatest things we have, particularly in Florida. We are so rich with assets, and our ability to display them and have people discover them is better than ever.
Yeah, no doubt. Raw juice, it's, I worked with Jeff Levine back in the day and developed that brand for him. It's a great juice place. So I wanted to touch a little bit on some of the things you're doing, maybe out of the ordinary or extreme. And I'll give you an example. I saw just recently, I read somewhere that Luxury Hotel was actually going to pay for someone's airfare to come visit them on a private plane. And I went, wow, that's really next level. That's really going over and above to get somebody to visit your hotel. And I think that's extreme. But what are some of the things that you guys are doing that are just maybe a bit different than you would typically done to market to these people?
Well, we're looking at it as kind of ballrooms without walls, restaurants without walls. And we're fortunate, particularly in the resort locations, to have gardens, beaches, golf courses. We're redoing golf courses and converting them into drive-in movie theaters. We are, from a food and beverage standpoint, as much as we can do outdoors, and these aren't new ideas. People are taking greenhouses and converting them into private dining rooms now. So you have these glass greenhouses and converting them into dining rooms. I think the ability for us to just be thoughtful and instill this level of confidence. You're right, because we will dedicate wings. Everyone now has their social nest or their quarantine that they're comfortable with. You have a group of people you likely have dinner with or have drinks with or your children are comfortable with. You've gone through that quarantine period. So when we first thought about this, we said, okay, we're gonna have 2 chairs, then we're gonna space out 6 feet, then have 2. Now it's reservations for beach, reservations for the pool chairs, which you would have thought would be perceived as a negative. Now someone has a level of confidence. Wow, I know I'm gonna have to wait for my beach chair. I'm greeted by someone. I'm a temperature checking. I have a wellness guest at a station check-in, because again, it's important for everyone to have a level of responsibility in this to avoid any kind of reset that we're having right now. And then lastly with it, is if you're a party of 6 or a party of 8 and you've been together, we want you to stay together, but we also want to provide the protection around you. So I think everything is on the table, and we will consider anything possible, and hopefully we're leaning into it. As Bill said earlier, that's all about the creativity. And quite frankly, our businesses, hotels and restaurants, have been the cleanest and most regulated businesses outside of hospitals for a long, long time. So our ability to amplify that message and do it thoughtfully is critical, and to be able to give each person a customized experience, whether it's pre-arrival, so when they're here, everything they want is here. And even including, I mean, we're doing Instacart, we're doing deliveries, we're doing all of those things. We're okay with that. We don't need to own 100% of the guest experience in today's environment. I want them to embrace Bill's venue. I want them to embrace another cultural aspect, and I want them to embrace a local restaurant.
That's great. That's great advice. Thanks, John. And Bill, how about you? Have you guys pivoted at all, or have you created something maybe out of the ordinary that you wouldn't have done, but you did it specifically for this?
Yeah, right off the bat, and some worked and some didn't work, but we went to requiring reservations, all online sales, which is the inverse of what we were, right? We're a tourist attraction. It was largely walk-up sales, and we required online reservations only and hour-and-a-half blocks, and it just didn't work. And so we had to pivot and change that back. You can still make reservations, but now we're back to people, kind of walking up. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Another thing that we had to do was look at the data that we're seeing, not just in Florida, but on a national basis related to the whole mask issue. And the data switched over a period of 3 weeks. All of a sudden, all the momentum shifted to masks. And we determined that we had to have all our guests wear masks because it was going to cost us attendance if we didn't. That changed over a period of 3 weeks, so we had to move pretty fast on that. So we're also leaning in to, speaking of the fall, we're leaning into, on this whole remote learning thing, we're leaning into our education team and working with the schools already to try to get folks to be able to come to us during the week. That's 60% or 50% that are going to be getting their schooling at home in our particular area. We're going to want them to get that hands-on learning. Look, we all know they get tired of looking at the screen all day. So the idea is look at the screen during the day and come see us in the afternoon and get some real hands-on learning. So we're having a pivoting on our message. We never would have done that before because we would have had lines out the door, anyway. So now we're having to be creative to get them to come in.
Yeah.
One other area, Tom, that we're
Yep.
seeing some opportunity in is on the fitness and wellness side. People still want to get pedicures and manicures. I mean, I think you talk to anyone that wanted their hair cut and are colored, there was a lot of pent up demand during that period. So we're taking guest rooms and converting them into micro gym experiences. So instead of going to a larger gym, which you clearly can do, I come back to one thing that we need to talk about is a lot of these decisions are very personal. And if and when it's right for a guest or a child to embrace this, it's right for them, and we're going to be ready for them because it's a very personal decision in this environment. And so what we found was while people still would come to the gym, and you see Orange Theory's having some record classes, and Hydro, one of the experiences that we do in a rowing experience, but then we found others that, you know, a husband and wife and kids or partners wanted to work out, but they didn't want to do it in a larger gym. So we converted guest rooms with full Pelotons, Hydros, techno gym equipment, and renting them by 30-minute, 60-minute, 90-minute increments, and then hospital grade cleaning those. And at the end of the day, from a revenue standpoint, you're going to make more money on those in a day than you are on a regular guest room rental. So I think we have, how do you turn those opportunities into great experiences? And that's what we got to do here.
Yeah, that's some really good thinking.
If I could add one thing, Tom and John, to that, is that we've increased the pace of our public relations efforts. You know, we jam so much into a short amount of time we never would have done before. We would have spread all these things out, but you know, challenging times make for challenging issues, and so our media outreach in the local markets and in Florida has been ramped up dramatically. Now it's hard to get the attention of the media in many cases, but from new animals coming in to animals that we're releasing to this new hotel that we opened to the new habitats that we're opening, we're jamming them into a period of time that normally would have been spread out by 6 months. But we need that noise out there because it's hard to spend the dollars effectively like we used to be able to do.
Great, thanks, Bill. That's good advice. You touched, John, on a bunch of things that I wanted to get to, and we kind of covered them off a lot along the way. But I wanted to ask you guys specifically, what have you guys done in your facilities to make it a better working environment for the parent? And John, you've already mentioned some things about the workout facilities and the office equipment. If you could provide even the listeners with just a list of these things that they might want to institute in their facilities to give them some ideas and you've seen that worked really well.
And we're learning every single day, and what we thought was the best practice yesterday might be embedded into it, or we're going to pivot completely to the point of the mask. And is it mandatory? Is it not mandatory? Temperature checks. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of interesting things. You have brands that are, you know, operating with Hilton's Clean Stay, Marriott's got a program, Hilton's got a program. We have assets across all those in independent hotels. So, you know, first of all, it's making sure that the team members know that if you're not feeling well, please stay at home. We're going to support you. We're going to compensate you. Don't be afraid to tell us if you're sick. Don't be afraid to tell us if you're around somebody, because that level of confidence starts there. Then you get into the guest situation. It's really interesting. I think the guests are, to your point earlier about reservations, most people never thought they wanted to make a reservation for a pool chair or a beach chair, and now they love the convenience of it, and you're guaranteed it. So, and there's the wait list program, and we're calling back those in different locations. And then it's the wellness stations. I think something we did really early on was we did the temperature checks, but then we want the individuals to feel comfortable going up and just checking in and doing those kind of things. And then the other opportunity is, who would have ever thought that takeout is we have 13 restaurants at one of our hotels. We have 14 now. We're doing more covers on takeout than we are in the restaurants in many, many occasions. And then we switched to more family style meals. And then more importantly, we're already in the floral business. We're in the theme and decor business. You know, so graduations, all these events, think about the proms people are missing, the graduations, the bar mitzvahs, the offices. We're developing in certain one of our resorts and hotels that you can have that entire package, the balloons, all of the confetti, every possible conception from floral to decor, that you can recreate that party at home, and we'll prepare it for you. So whether that be trays of prepared food or you want to do it together. I think the other thing that's really coming out of this is that people are enjoying spending time with their family, and they're reconnecting at a level that's been lost for a long, long time. So how do we provide the toolkits and the resources? So if they want a completely curated dinner, or they want a kit to prepare it at home or together, or do it in their suite, we're adapting kitchens and long stays as well as suites. So whether it's in your home, whether it's through your private club or fully curated, we want to be there and do it for you.
John, I think I lost you. That was some great ideas. I'll kick it over, Bill. Same thing. I mean, some things that you are willing to do in your hotel that maybe would help a staycation. And even regarding kids.
Yeah, it's, we're lucky. Our target market for the Winter of the Dolphins Beach Club is families with kids, and some of this would have happened anyway, but you lean into it more. But I mean, you got the state of the art is Wi-Fi systems. Every room has a desk. You can lean into those things. The rooms have a view, so if you want to bring the kids and you want to have the kids go down to the pool or go down to the beach, you can actually see them from the hotel. And so you market that, and you market the view, and you market the beach. They feel safe out there, and we lean in on that. It's less about other things and more about those things, and that can work pretty well. And so we think that'll be especially successful really in the fall at that hotel, as people are looking for something to do during the week or on the weekends. I mean, the amount of people that are showing up at that hotel on Friday looking for a room, it's unbelievable. Never would have expected that 6 months ago, ever. That people just drive up and say, do you have a room? And they got a carload full of kids because they can't take it anymore being at home. And so that's going to work really well for the hotel. And we're expecting to have a really good fall. I mean, it's going well for us now, too.
Yeah, no doubt. It seems like it's been successful. Been watching the progress. Have you guys, I got to ask you a question. Have you guys heard of this thing called a daycation?
Daycation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you guys do that, John? And tell us a little bit about it.
It depends on the market. Obviously, some really good technology. One's called literally Daycation. iPalapa is another one that you can rent in and rent cabanas and check them in. They're very popular in Miami. Most of our resorts are more private clubs or overnight stays, so we're encouraging them. But we're seeing them being very successful. I've had calls with both those companies, and they're doing some terrific stuff. You can do a day pass. And enjoy a resort, enjoy it. And especially what's happened to the day beds and the cabanas are naturally built in for social distancing. And then you have some amazing people in Miami that run most of the pools, and even over on your coast, on the west coast of Florida, and from almost Palm Beach down to Miami, the Boucher brothers have all the beach and pool operations. And what they've done collectively, and they work across all the brands in the cities, and they're doing amazing social distancing on the beaches and providing QR codes. You scan right on from your beach chair, the menu pops up. It's actually where we're thinking these things are actually compromising the integrity of a guest experience. We're finding that these are going to be new norms, and in many ways enhancements that people are going to say, I actually prefer ordering this way. And again, it's about what's right for the customer, and we want to provide the vehicle by whichever way they want to be served, or the level of service, high touch or low touch. We want to be there and deliver it to them through what we call intuitive service.
Yep. I bet you guys, I'm sure you guys are getting lots of calls ahead of time asking about what you're doing to, create the safety for their family, and you're fielding those calls probably every day, right?
We are, and I got to tell you, this is where like Visit Florida and FLRA come in, and American Hotel Lodging Association and USA Travel. The industry is coming together like never before, and it's really critical that we do that. There's some great certification out there. The local county in Fort Lauderdale has done a great program. Palm Beach is doing a certified clean program, and the convention center. So we're going to have the ability to get this confidence back, and it's going to start with small groups, and I think it's backyard. Everyone's talking about dry market, and you look at the new dry market, it's all the way to New York City. It's no longer Jacksonville to Tampa to Boca, Miami to Naples. It's Charlotte, Nashville, and that's not going to change. And to your point earlier, we're doing really creative things where we're renting floors out to families, and then social distancing floors between floors, so everyone has confidence. So it's about customization, it's about creativity, and it's about being relentless in our pursuit of safety and building confidence.
Though I think one of the challenges that John and I both face, and I think a lot of folks on this call, is the difficulty for the consumer knowing what that particular market's rules are. So the lack of a state mandate on things really creates challenges for us, whether it's here at the attraction or at the hotel where they come in. Remember, a lot of people are driving in, to see us, then going to the beach, or driving here and going back to Orlando, and it's confusing for them to know what the mandate is. Yes, we have it on our website. Yes, we put it on the confirmation emails. Yes, we have videos on it, but it's still, legitimately, it's confusing. Mask, no mask, what's going on? And it is complicated for us, because we inadvertently upset guests because they don't know when they come into this market.
Well, it's each city, each location, right? And you know, we know the governor. Everybody has to meet with what the governor says, but each county and then each city can add on to that to a layer. And we've seen it change, and it's gone forward and backwards. To your point, it makes it a little bit challenging for us to have a longer window. And then the other part we haven't really gotten into right now is we're moving from the COVID-19 scenario to what could be a financial crisis for a very long time. So how this business comes back. So that's why the leisure business, in my mind, has got to be all of our emphasis, whether it's an attraction, whether it's a local restaurant, or whether it's a hotel. It's going to be about leisure, leisure, leisure for quite an extensive period of time, and could be, you know, multiple months and quarters and years before we see what would be a stabilization year like we saw in 19. So this idea that we're collaborating, competitive collaboration around strategy and ideas of experience and safety protocols, and reintroducing services and goods and doing it together and collectively has never been more important.
Yep, totally agree, John. That's actually a great way to close this. I did want to leave some time for some Q&A. But I hope for the people on the call, I hope that we were able to give you some insight. Thank you, John, very much for sharing that information. Bill, thank you for sharing. Every one of these that we do is just hopefully to educate people and give them creative ideas to do things different in their facilities. So thank you for your time today, guys. And Ashley, I'll open it up for questions with the group.
Sure, we did have one question. Bill, could you speak to the partnerships with local hotels and restaurants and how that's helped?
Yeah, that's a great, oh my gosh, it's been remarkable. So we have partnerships with all these hotels that are behind us, you know, running Clearwater Beach all the way down south and in Tampa and this whole market. And what we've been able to do is really lean in on those relationships for help to get people in the door. I mean, they know that we're way off on the mark on attendance. They know how much we need that. So whether it's the Wyndham or the Hyatt or the Hilton or the Marriott or our own hotel or the Hampton, we've been aggressive about reaching out to them and saying, hey, can you help us? You know, for those guests that are coming in the door, can you send them our way? And we doubled down with our street team to get out and to go see those properties and try to interact with the guests in a safe way and get them to come. And the beautiful part of this is it's working. And you know, we're getting them to lean in to us because they know how important we are to the community, and they know how important it is for us to get revenue so that we can do our work with marine life. And it's been, honestly, it's been touching to hear from so many of the hoteliers and the restaurants. For example, we've got one of the restaurant chains here that in every check puts in a piece, you know, to come to Clearwater Marine Aquarium to support their efforts. And it's just been very touching on that side.
Great, thank you. Well, that's all the questions that we had from the audience today. Tom, did you want to wrap it up with any final comments or?
No, I just wanted to again say thank you guys, John, for taking the time, Bill, for taking the time. I hope everyone learned something today and got some ideas. So thank you very much and look forward to seeing you guys. And thank you again, Ashley and FRLA, for inviting us back.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Also, please feel free to share our emails and
Yes.
in any social channels that would be helpful. We're happy to address any questions for anybody out there, and we look forward to great times together in the future. And thank you for having us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.